Have you ever had a dream that kept on repeating itself night after night, like it was trying to tell you something? This is exactly about the same dream that kept you teasing, and today for which I, Arz O Sama, will be reviewing the book Alchemist for you. And it's all about the dreams. Now, before I tell you something about the book, about its genre or the language, I want to tell you the strangest thing about the book, and that's that this fable was the biggest flop. Even Paul's own publisher abandoned him. The point of Pounder is that then out of nowhere, how this book got 65 million copies in 80 languages. And yet today, it is still being read by the youngsters. The question arises, who was the audience reading it? Who were the reader interpreting it? And why out of nowhere and all of a sudden, it got a big boost? Let me just tell you that this book was published 10 years before I was born, 1988. And till today, this book is being read by the generations. So there is something about the inner voice and the dreams that the alchemist said we need to learn. And let me just tell you that this book is not that simple to be understood in one go. Rather, whenever you will read this book, it will give you a different lesson. By the end of the video, I will disclose slowly and gradually the lessons this book taught us. Because in this book, Paul is not just writing about Santiago and his journey to find the treasure. Rather, he is giving you life lessons. The story follows a young shepherd named Santiago, who is all surrounded by his sheep and the freedom to roam around Spain. But he kept dreaming about the same dream over and over again, and that is about the treasure hunt, far away, hidden near the pyramids of Egypt. So now I'm going to tell you what exactly that old man who stated himself as the king said to Santiago, and that was a personal legend. Now this is something we usually don't recognize in ourselves. We are not able to see within ourselves that what it is, right? So personal legend is basically the idea that the young man was given by the king, that you have to recognize your inner voice, what it says, what your hearts want to believe, and what you have to achieve. So Santiago, when met the king, either had two choices. He sells all of his flock and pursue his dream, or he stays there as a shepherd boy. And what do you think he has chosen? The simple path, choosing being a shepherd boy, or the hard part, that was choosing his dream by selling all what he had? So what follows along the book is throughout the North Africa, where originally Santiago was living, to the pyramids. He crossed desert and oasis, and what he met along, who he met along, and how this journey has brought up this book into a master hit. So when Santiago decided he has to sell all his flocks, he then pursued his dream. Throughout his dream, he was not alone. He had many unforgettable characters throughout the journey that taught him who and why and for what his existence matter on this planet Earth. So the crystal merchant is one of my favorite characters because he was the first person who met Santiago throughout the journey. And he taught Santiago to pursue the dream that he once had himself. So pursuing the dream, Santiago obviously needed few funding, right? And for that funding, Santiago was hired by the crystal merchant. So when Santiago was hired, he kept cleaning the crystals of the merchant, he kept reorganizing his shops and giving him ideas that how he can pursue his business. Basically, he was marketing his business, and that was a good selling of crystal like it used to be. What was the turning point you think Santiago had to achieve his dream? When he saw the merchant that he has a dream unfulfilled. So Santiago saw the regret in the eyes of the crystal merchant, that what happens when you don't pursue your dream, your inner voice, and what you want to do. So next in the journey, Santiago met an Englishman who is studying ancient texts. And he is rumored to be someone who touches something and it comes from lead to gold. Even more incredibly, to have discovered the secret of eternal life. And lastly, the most important character of the story, where comes the woman and how a story is incomplete without a woman. So in the middle of the desert, on the oasis, Santiago meets a woman named Fatima. Now he has two choices, either to choose his dream or his love of the life, Fatima. And he chose his dream again, because choosing the dream means the person you love will eventually support it. And he left Fatima for his dream. So here's a quick bit. What have you done? Either chose the love of your life or the dream. And don't forget, when you're choosing the dream, there comes a point where you have to leave your loved ones beside, because you know, nevertheless, they are going to stay with you because they love you and they want you to achieve your dream. So Santiago left Fatima on the same promise that if you are meant to be together, we will. So crossing the desert, Santiago eventually meets the alchemist, the person on which the name of the book is titled. So who was Alchemist? Alchemist was a mysterious personality living in an open desert who seems to understand the world with the language no one else does. So this is where the book shifts from adventure to something more mysterious and much more deeper. So Alchemist did not only taught Santiago how he has to survive in the desert, rather he taught him how he has to understand the language of wind, sun and his own heart. And slowly and gradually he taught him how he had to read the entire universe. And eventually, this is what we forget in our life, that we have an environment that is living, the trees, the wind, the sun, they are living around us and we forget to read about them and how the nature expresses its feeling. Still, even the nature is expressing its feeling, we forget that we as human beings ourselves has our inner voice, inner feelings as well that needs to be expressed. So this takes us more towards the climax of this fable, that whether Santiago will choose again his dream or he will actually learn the language the alchemist has taught him. So this is a life or a death situation again for Santiago, where he has to choose between whether he has to learn the language or he has to leave it behind and move back to what he has been doing. And this time he has to make sure that it's not just the words he said same to Fatima. These words has to be the actual action. So I'll be stopping here and I will be leaving it to you. You need to read out what happens next, because if I revealed it, I would be robbing the most grasping passage of the book. Now we are getting closer to the end of the book, figuring it out where is Fatima, where is the alchemist, and where is the dream. Does he reach to the Egyptian pyramids? Now this is where you need to read the book. So this is one of the most critical part for myself, that I have to disclose the ending for you, which I won't be probably doing, rather I'm leaving it on to you to read the book. So coming towards the end of the book, reading it out, every adventure, every character of the story is telling Santiago that what lesson he needs to learn, what encounter with every character taught him, and he learned eventually that everything throughout the journey was not merely hardships, rather they taught Santiago how to live, how to survive, and in between how he needs to listen to his inner voice that led him towards his dream. But here comes the main point. Did he achieve his dream? Did he found the treasure for which he sold his flock for? Well, for that you need to read the book. Alchemist, in my opinion, has one of the most talked ending, right? And let me just tell you, where was that treasure? Did he got the treasure that he thought is under the pyramids in Egypt? Let me give you a small disclosure about it. When we aim for anything in life, we forget who we are and what are our roots. And something similar happened with Santiago. While ending his book, he constantly reminded us that every hurdle he faced, every character he encountered was more or less than a lesson, and to which he called a personal legend was actually who you are. So let me know in the comments below, what do you think about the personal legend? I believe a personal legend is something who can make the other person believe that he is capable of doing something. And this is one of my main qualities, I believe. So coming towards the end, I'm not going to tell you about what Santiago found in the treasure, or either did he found the treasure or not. I'm not going to tell you about Fatima. I'm not telling you about his entire journey. But what I assure you, that Santiago believed in one thing when he ended the book, and it was always listen to your inner voice. So this book teaches you 6 main lessons, and first of them is believe your personal legend. So in this book, when we learned about Santiago, who was a shepherd boy who believed himself that he can get the treasure under the pyramids of Egypt, he believed his inner voice. So personal legend is someone who is able to understand why he exists and what is the purpose of his existence in this universe. So the second lesson of this book gives you that when you commit, the universe is going to help you. When you are assured that you need to achieve something, this universe is going to make ways out of it. In other words, that we say, कि Allah is going to make wasila for you. So third important lesson of the book is listen to yourself and learn the language of the world. So Santiago did not only heard the inner voice of his heart, but beside it, what made him learn the inner voice of his heart was the nature, the environment, the blessing Allah has given us. The fourth most important lesson of this book is that obstacles are a part of a journey. When Santiago got robbed, he joined the crystal merchant. and then he found the love of his life, and much more that I'm not disclosing at the moment, for which you need to read the book. But let me just tell you, did every setback made him stop? No. He went on, he pursued his dreams. One of the most favorite lessons that is close to my heart. And by saying this, let me just tell you, I have read this book 3 times. Firstly, when I was getting into the university. Secondly, when I gave birth to a baby. And thirdly, when I am at the very starting point of my professional life, of where I have to go and what I have to follow. This lesson is the most favorite of mine, and that is, love always stays. No matter what happens throughout your life, no matter what experiences you face, the love will stay. And for this, you need to read the book, that whether Santiago met Fatima or not. The core takeaway of this book is, don't be afraid to pursue your dreams. The process changes, but the destination remains the same. And the biggest drawback throughout the journey that keeps you away from achieving your dream is the fear, to which we normally labelize as log kya kahenge. This keeps you away from you being your personal legend. Do read Alchemist and let me know in the final pages, in the final parts of the book, did it hit you the way it hit me?